So I haven't uploaded a video in a few weeks. Figured I'd give a little update on that. Basically, I've had a cyst growing in my right wrist for a while now. It's gotten fairly large. It's been causing me some pretty severe pain, interfering with work. I haven't been in my workshop. But a few weeks ago when I uploaded my last video, I acquired a GoPro. Really wanted to shoot something. And I also acquired a lathe, which, obviously I didn't have before. So I figured I'd go ahead and try it out Saturday, which was 2 days ago at this point. And I figured, why not just go ahead and shoot my first turning and make a video of it. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to find out what I made. It'll be fun.
Alright, so I'm starting off here with a squared up piece of 2x4, about 1.25 inches by 1.25 inches. Just find the center by drawing a line from one corner to the opposing corner twice. Gives you an approximate center. It may not be perfect, but it worked for me. So once I got my tool rest into place, I started with a roughing gouge, and then I used a parting tool to basically give my dimensions. And I switched over to a skew chisel just to see what it was like. It worked fairly well. I really didn't know what I was doing with it, so I switched back to the roughing gouge. Or it's a bowl gouge. I'm actually not entirely sure. It's one of the two. But I also turned up the speed of my lathe. That way the piece was moving a bit faster, and it actually made things a lot easier. Went a lot faster. I didn't round the entire piece. I just rounded the bit of it that I was actually going to turn into something. Even at this point, I wasn't sure what it was, but then I figured, you know what, why not make a little baseball bat? So I got out my smallest gouge. Again, it's either a bowl gouge or a roughing gouge, I'm not entirely sure. Then I just started forming it. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on wood turning, so I had a basic idea of what I was doing. A very basic idea. Again, I switched here to a skew chisel just to try it out again, but again, I really didn't know how to use a skew, so it really didn't work very well, so I switched back. Being my first turning, I actually learned a lot about how lathes work and how the chisels work as well. It's actually very intuitive. I figured there was a lot more technique involved, but really it's just, as soon as you get your first cut, it just kind of sinks in and you just keep going. So here I finished forming it. The proportions of my bat are a little off. I mean, I only went by memory, and I'm not a sports person, so I really didn't know what I was forming. Here I take some 80 grit sandpaper and just go over it to get out all the rough marks from the gouge. And I'm holding my hose for my dust collector up to it so I don't get dust everywhere and I'm not having to breathe it in. Really saves me from having to wear a dust mask or a respirator. It's a little bit of a hassle holding the hose, and it's probably not safe keeping your arm directly under a spinning piece of wood, but live and learn, I guess. And here I switched up to 120, I believe. Just went over the piece, getting it all nice and smooth. I went to 220. And here you can see me try to use a hammer to hold up my hose, and it didn't work. I switched from a disc to a flexible sanding paper, and it was a bit more of a hassle. I'd probably just stick to the disc. This is some 320 sandpaper, just regular pro-grade sandpaper. I happen to have some 800 grit sandpaper for sharpening chisels and whatnot, so I went ahead and tried it. I got the wood really smooth. And then here's a wax finish, just mid-wax, natural color paste wax. Finishing wood on a lathe is probably the most satisfying thing I have ever done. You just spin the wax on, let it sit for a minute, and you turn the speed up really high and buff it. It's a beautifully smooth finish. And there I use a flush cut saw to just part the piece off instead of using the big parting tool I have. You just sand up the ends and boom, there's a little bat. I think it's adorable.
So there you go, little baseball bat. I don't have it on me at the current moment, so I can't show you it again, but at the end of the video there you can see it's actually pretty nifty. And again, it's my first turning, so proportions are a little off. It's not perfect, but I think I did pretty good. You'll also notice, perhaps, that the lathe was actually on my workbench instead of on the stand it came with. I figured since it's not very deep, it's about the length of my workbench, but I figured it wasn't very deep, so I could put it on my workbench. It's not going to take up a whole lot of room, be in the way. But then I think it was at a height that was just too high, and it was kind of hard to work with. So, flip this around. You can see it is no longer on my workbench. Instead, I have 3 Mjolnirs. Yay! So instead, I decided to go ahead and build the stand that it came with. You can see it there. And it seems to be at a much more comfortable height. You can also see it is a central machinery lathe. Extremely cheap. Got it for $240 with a 20% off ticket. Or coupon. So yeah, it seems to work out pretty well. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing with a lathe. Never used one before. And then down there you got my chisels. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. You can expect more wood turning to come, because it's pretty much the only thing in my workshop that doesn't hurt my wrist. I thought about making a video of fixing up these hammers. I actually made my friend Derek one of these a while back in May, and I made a few prototypes. Figured I'd touch them up, repaint them, try and sell them, since I can't get in my workshop to make anything else. If you liked the video, make sure you click like below. Helps me out a lot. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video. Sharing actually really helps a lot, and I really appreciate it. And leave a comment below and let me know what you think. If you have any tips on working a lathe, about what kind of tools to buy or anything, I would love to hear about that as well. I'll see you next week, week after, sometime. I don't know.